All right, this is a very punctual group, so I think we can go ahead and get started. Good evening or good morning. Hello, everyone. I am Monica Samuels. I'm the Director of Sake and Spirits for Vine Connections. And I'm very happy to be presenting this webinar to you with my very esteemed colleague, John Gauntner, and some of our favorite brewers. And this, the webinar tonight was an idea brought to us by our partners in Canada, Metropolitan Wines and Sakes, in a way to pivot to be able to sell more sake during this very challenging time. And although the legislation in Canada makes it very challenging to get alcohol in people's hands most of the time, this happens to be a time where Metropolitan can't sell direct to consumer, and there are many other ways to get sake in your hands. So we thought it would be a great way to bring these brewers together and invite our US friends and sake drinking friends and other friends in Japan and beyond to join tonight. So this should be a lot of fun. Just a couple housekeeping things. If you are having trouble seeing everyone on the screen, because we do have a lot of panelists, if you look at where everyone's pictures are, there should be an arrow either at the top or the bottom where you can scroll through everyone's camera view. I'm doing it right now and it seems to be working. And the other thing I wanted to say is we do have a chat function. We also have a Q&A function. I will be keeping an eye on both, but I'll be paying more attention to the Q&A function, and I'll be feeding John and the brewers questions as we go through their particular sakes. So if you have a question for the brewer, I would request to put it in the Q&A. And if you have a chat thing like, oh my God, this is the best sake I've ever had, maybe that could go in the chat. And if you are joining us from Canada and you have any specific questions about where you can get these sakes in your hands, Vivian Hatherell, who is the founder of Metropolitan Wines and Sakes, will be keeping a very close eye on the chat, and she'll be responding to you as well. So we want to make this as interactive as possible. And just if you are tasting along with us, the order that we plan on tasting in tonight is we're going to start with Rihaku, Wandering Poet, and Dreamy Clouds. And then we will drink Yamada Shoten, Everlasting Roots. And then we will drink the two sakes from Yuho, Eternal Embers and Rhythm of the Centuries. John and I will be discussing the taste of these sakes and how they impact us in food pairings, but we will be playing around a little bit with temperatures when it comes to Yamada Shoten and the two sakes from Yuho. So if you do have the desire to participate and geek out with us, please heat your sake accordingly, but you can also do it later. We just wanted to show you a little bit about the spectrum that these sakes can be enjoyed at. So I'm going to hand it over to John to introduce himself and introduce the brewers, and we'll get started.
Good evening, everyone. Glad you could join us on this nice, it's been quarantined so long, I don't remember what day it is, Wednesday night. My name is John Gauntner. I usually live in Japan, but I've been in Ohio when I got here on May 7th and haven't been able to go back to Japan since then. I do a lot of things in the sake world. A lot of them are focused around education and talking about how wonderful sake is and trying to convey it to the rest of the world. But I also run a small export company that exports all of these wonderful sake to Vine Connections. So I'm a bit jaded, in my opinion, on how wonderful all of these breweries are. We'll be talking to each of them one at a time, as Monica pointed out. But briefly, I just wanted to introduce them very quickly. First of all, is the president and very deeply involved himself in the brewing aspect of things, of Rihaku Shuzo, which makes the sake Rihaku, and that's Mr. Yuichiro Tanaka, waving there. I'm not sure everybody sees everybody in the same order, but he's at the bottom of the screen in my mind. Next is the managing director of Yamada Shoten, which makes Mukashi no Mama, amongst other brands, known as Everlasting Roots, and that is Kazuhiko Yamada, who isn't waving yet. He just bowed to us. And last but not least, by any stretch of the imagination, is the president of the company that brews the sake called Yuho. It's called Mio Yashuzo, and that is Ms. Miho Fujita. So greetings to all of the brewers, and we'll go through them each one at a time and talk about a bunch of stuff. We hope everybody enjoys the discussion, but more importantly, if you've got the sake in front of you, we hope you enjoy that as well.
Um, Thank you. So, if we can move on to the next slide, we're going to start with Rihaku. So as John was saying, this is Yuichiro Tanaka. He is the president and standing in Toji, I guess, and it's been that way for quite some time at Rihaku, and which doesn't really surprise me because he is seemed to have just accepted and taken on and exceeded at any role that's thrown his way, whether it was taking over his family brewery from a very young age when he unfortunately lost his father too young, or taking over all of the brewing responsibilities at Rihaku. And this brewery is located in Shimane Prefecture, which you can see here on the map. It's in southwest Japan. Out of Japan's 47 prefectures, Shimane is the second least populated, which he always jokes about. It's not a place that tourists really flock to. It's not a place with exciting nightlife, but it is a great place for agriculture because there aren't a lot of humans to get in the way here. And Rihaku is a brewery that we have been really successful with from the beginning. It's been 20 years now that Vine Connections has been importing sakes, and we arrived on this name, and we get a lot of questions about why we have English names for sakes, and it's hard to please everyone. But I think that in Japan, in the US, if you're drinking sake and you don't speak Japanese, it's very hard to remember a Japanese name, where if there's an English name, it's something that you can latch onto. And we wanted to do that very carefully and very respectfully. And so Rihaku is a wandering poet. Rihaku, or Li Po, if you are reading in Chinese, is a famous poet, very famous for drinking a lot of sake and writing a lot of poetry about sake. And around the time that this brewery got this name, the prime minister was very into Chinese culture and poetry, and I think he drank the sake and decided it should be named Rihaku. So if you are drinking along with us, the calligraphy on the bottle is actually his handwriting right here. So we're going to move into Tasting Wandering Poet to the next slide. Matsue Castle is probably one of the only tourist attractions that there are in Rihaku. And Matsue City is where Rihaku Brewery is located. So if you go here, you can see this castle. So we are tasting Rihaku Wandering Poet, and this is a sake. It's a Jumai Ginjo made with Yamada Nishiki grown in Shimane, and the yeast is a variation of number 9 that is a prefectural yeast from Shimane Prefecture, and the rice polishing is 55%. So I thought this would be a good place for us to start, as the theme, we have a loose theme here on regionality. So I am going to direct a couple questions towards Tanaka-san that I will ask in English, and John will, I don't know if he needs to translate. He understands English very well, but he pretends not to. And then he will give us his opinion. So my first question is, we talked a lot about water on our last webinar and the difference between hard versus soft water. And I know that, Tanaka-san, you have your own well, and I think it's so unique that you might be the only brewery in Matsue to have your own well, and that the water in Matsue has a lot of ocean or sea water mixed into it, so there's a lot of minerality in the water, but you seem to have a different water source. So could you explain your well water to other brewing water in Matsue? And well, let's just start there.
お分かりになったかもしれないけど、念のため通訳しますが、水の話ですけど、
はい。
硬水とか軟水とかそういう話よくあるんだけど、蔵の中の井戸から水取ってますよね。
はい、
で、松江市にある、今何軒ぐらい残ってますか？
今、市内は、3軒ですね。
3軒だけしか残ってない。
はい、
そのこの2軒も蔵の中の井戸あるんですか？
いや、近くの有名な水が出るところに汲みに行ってるところですね。2軒とも。はい。
で、なんか海のちょっと塩水っていうか、ちょっと入ってきてる井戸も多いけど、田中さんの井戸はそれとまた違う水質ですよね。
松江はもともと海と湖があって、でそれをつなぐ川がたくさんあって、水に囲まれた町で有名なんですけど、はい、でも、そこら辺の水は全部海水が混ざってて、で、飲み水は多分昔から井戸で掘ってると思うんですけど、今でもちゃんといい水が出てるのはうちだけですね。
あ、そう。はい、いい水出てるというのは、 い水じゃない水は一応海の水に混じってるということ、
その町によりますね。ただ、多分飲み水は昔から井戸だったのが、もうどんどん減っていってるのかなと僕は思ってます。
はい。で、自分の、なるほどね。みんな遠いところは取ってるというわけですよね。
そうです、そうです。
はいはい。So Matsue City is the city in Shimane Prefecture in which Rihaku Shuzo is. And currently there's 3 active breweries that are still active there. And there's lots of lakes and the ocean surrounds this prefecture, but the city as well. So a lot of the water sources have been contaminated with ocean water. Contaminated may not be a good word, but it is if you're trying to brew sake with it. So from a long time ago, everybody was drinking well water rather than lake water or something else. And they actually have a well inside their brewery, but the only ones that do. The other breweries have to go far away to get wells that are not inside the brewery to draw their water. So he's really, basically, we've got the best water in town and the only really dependably good source of sake brewing water within our brewery that is amongst the breweries that are in town.
Perfect.
もう一個いいですか？
はい。
今思い出したんですけど、松江市は水道代も、今ね、だいぶ整備されて普通になったんですけど、昔は松江はすごく水道代が高かったんで、普通に市民のみんなが飲む水を確保するのも、ちょっと前までは大変だったみたいです。
So it's just kind of anecdotal, but until recently, the water bills in Matsue were extremely high. They've actually come down a little bit, but it just shows how difficult it was to get good drinking water in Matsue City until very recently.
Thank you very much. So, Tanaka-san, do you think that there is a Shimane style of sake? And if there is, do you think that Rihaku is a Shimane style sake?
島根流っていうか、島根のお酒というスタイルというか、それがあるんですか？もしあれば、リハクはそれに従ってるかと思いますか？
もともとの、日本酒の場合、その作ってる人のテクニックと、それから場所と原料といろいろ条件があると思うんですが、あとは気候ですね。で、はい、かなり島根流を、変えていって今のリハクのスタイルがあるとは思ってます。
So if you look at the style、はい、
で気候とかは蔵の場所は島根なんで、それ以上外せない部分もあるので、そこでバランスは取ってるかなと思ってます。
はい。So if you look at regional styles, there's a lot of things that are involved. One of them is the climate, others the water, the rice you can get. So there's a whole lot of conditions that are applied to that. But if you look at the way that Shimane sake was a long time ago, all those conditions and the regionality that it led to, he does feel that they do conform to that. They definitely have a traditional Shimane style to it. And a lot of it has to do, his last point was a lot of it has to do with the environment, the climate. And the climate is still the same. So that's one of the bigger reasons that they do conform to the traditional style of Shimane sake.
Thank you. And I have some other questions about this sake in particular. So this sake is made with Shimane grown Yamada Nishiki, Shimane derivative of yeast number 9. And we know, or some of these people asking questions know that Tanaka-san does use Shimane grown kotekimai or certified sake rice frequently, such as Kannomai, recently developed hybrid for growing in Shimane. So do you see the future of brewing in Shimane much more heavily associated with locally grown Yamada Nishiki and other local kotekimai, or do you think brewers in Shimane will continue to buy rice from outside of the prefecture?
これ、ワンドリングポーっていうのは、やっぱり島根産の山田錦と島根系の9号ですよね。で、田中さんが、島根県産米、山田以外にも甘露米など使ってるんだけど、島根県の酒の未来はやっぱり県産米に、大事にすることだと思いますか？もしくは、これから、依然として県産米以外な米を使うことが多くなるかという質問です。
今すごく重要な局面というか、今回のコロナ問題ですごく良くない方向に行ってると私は思ってるんですけど、 もともと島根自体が、まあ、人がいなくて年寄りばっかりいる場所なので、高齢化が進んでて、特に農業をする人はおじいさんばっかりなんですよね。で、島根県のお米で人気なのは食べる方のお米の方がずっと人気があって、農家の皆さんは食べるお米を作ってる方が、まあ、お金を稼ぐことができるっていう状況で、酒造公的米は全体の 5% よりちょっと多いぐらいかな、5、6% しか作られてないというのが今の島根県の酒造公的米の生産の状況。
今。
はい、今、
はい、
5、6% ですね。ただ今回のコロナで、多分お酒が余るので、かなり来年以降の酒米の発注が、減ると思うんですよね。そうすると農家の人はみんな喜んで食べるお米を作るんで、その人たちがまた酒米を作ってって言った時に帰ってきてくれるかどうかすごく心配な状況だと思ってます。
なるほど。
はい。で、これから先のことなので分かりませんが、私はまあ島根県産の米が手に入れば使いたいとは思ってますけど、安定して供給するために他の県の米もいるかなというふうに。
なるほど。はい。非常に分かりやすい答えで。So if you look at Shimane Prefecture, it's always been a very low population. Not a whole lot of people living in there. And the farmers are all getting old. I mean, there's nobody coming to live in Shimane anymore. So most of the farming community is very, very old. And it's easier for them and it's more popular and more profitable for them to grow table rice, eating rice, as opposed to actually growing sake rice. So currently, only about 5 or 6%, 5 to 6% of all the rice grown in Shimane Prefecture is actually sake rice. Because of the effects of the coronavirus, sake is not going to sell as it has. And as such, there's going to be leftover sake. And they'll need to sell that next year. So what that means is that the orders for sake rice will decline even more because brewers are going to brew less sake because there's stuff left over from the past year. So what that means is that the rice farmers will switch back to table rice, which they're very happy to do because it's easier to grow and more profitable for them. And once they do that, Mr. Tanaka is concerned that it'll be very difficult to get them to start to grow sake rice again. Once they got him back on the joy of growing table rice, it's going to have an effect on that. It'll be harder for them to get to grow sake rice again. So he wants to use as much as possible Shimane grown rice. He wants to use local sake rice as much as possible. However, he needs to consider stability of supply. So as much as possible, he will use it. But if he needs to ensure a certain amount of rice every year for a particular product, he will have to go outside the prefecture, even though he doesn't really want to do that if he doesn't have to.
Perfect. And I'm just going to do one last question before we dive into tasting this one. How was Shimane No. 9 yeast developed?
Shimane 9号、はい、どうやって開発されたという質問です。
多分っていうか、もともと島根県が少し前に、全国新酒鑑評会でいっぱい金賞を取った時期があって、でその頃は9号酵母が主流だったんですよね。でその時に、まあ、金賞をたくさん取るので有名な蔵のもろみから、選ばれたやつだと聞いてます。
県内の？
はい。
でそれが県が取ってそれを
培養して。はい。
なるほど。So there's a contest every year in Japan that takes place in early May called the National New Sake Tasting Competition, the Zenkoku Shinshu Kampyokai. It's a very prestigious, it is the most prestigious contest. They actually couldn't finish it this year, but that's another topic for another webinar. But many years ago, 何年前ぐらいの話ですか？大体。
僕はまだ子供だった頃だと思いますんで、もう30年。いや、もう30年、ごめんなさい。ありがとうございます。30年ぐらい前かな。
So about 30 years ago, Shimane Prefecture won a whole slew of golds at this National New Sake Tasting Competition. And at that time, yeast number 9 was a very, very popular yeast for winning golds in that competition. And there was one particular brewery within Shimane Prefecture that did really, really well and won gold and had a great sake. So they took the foam from the fermenting mash of that particular sake in that particular brewery, and the prefecture took it, did some research, reproduced it, and distributed it to all of the other brewers in Shimane Prefecture that wanted to use it. And that became Shimane No. 9. Why do they just call it number 9? Because in order to call something number 9, there's one of two places from which you must procure it. And even though this is the same yeast, they reproduced it and distributed it within Shimane Prefecture. So they gave it the name Shimane number 9. So that is the roots of Shimane number 9 yeast.
Very good. So John, let's take a little break and taste some Wandering Poet. I have been getting some good questions about food pairings for the sake in here, and I think it's important to note that Wandering Poet was the first sake for us at Vine Connections that really crossed this border outside of Japanese food culture. And it was a Mexican restaurant that started carrying it as a pairing with asparagus and queso blanco that was really delicious. And I've always, ever since I started working at Vine Connections, which has been well over 6 years now, I've thought in my mind that this was the sake for green vegetables. And Tanaka-san himself really likes green vegetables and has this kind of obsession with coriander, cilantro, and grows it himself, and loves Thai food. And when he's in the US, he's always complaining that we're not giving him enough salad, enough vegetables. So it's always been my go-to to recommend it with vegetables. But I think it's a pretty green sake overall. I mean, there's so much aloe vera on the nose, like aloe vera and grassy, lemon lime, apple pear.
To me, in the aromas, there's nothing hugely overpowering, not one particular essence in the aromas. But to me, I like to call them riptides, subtle little variations of the greenery that you're talking about, some banana and melon, but a bunch of little riptides of green vegetables and leafy things that are going around in the aromas for sure. I also, in the flavor, see a lot of autumnal persimmon and even pumpkin. And I think that contributes to its suitability for leafy green and slightly bitter vegetable pairings, I think.
Yeah, I think that everything is really controlled and in balance. It has just the right amount of astringency that lifts up the finish and dries out your mouth on the finish and gives you a little bit of spice. Has just the amount of aroma, exuberance, and I think it's a really hard sake to not like, and I think that's part of the reason we've just done so well with it for so long.
I think it's got a lot of uniqueness because all of those little elements are just in perfect alignment. And it's really hard to find a sake that is appealing without being ostentatious or overly ostentatious. But it's got just enough ostentatiousness to attract people, enough earthiness to, and astringency, which is the next word that was going to be out of my mouth before you stole it from me there, to really, really make it pair with such a wide range of food. So it's got ginjo aspects, earthy aspects, and food pairing aspects that are great. And the acidity too. At the end, the acidity and the astringency, 6 of one, half does the other, but it's a great way to finish the sake.
Absolutely. So I think we're going to move forward to Dreamy Clouds, since we got a little, just want to make sure everyone gets plenty of time to talk about their sake. So, and I think the story with Dreamy Clouds is pretty interesting, at least the way that Tanaka-san tells it. I mean, I think that for the longest time, Nigori was thought of as kind of a lazy sake or just clumsy and unrefined, and there wasn't, the merits of Nigori were hard to get a Japanese sake drinker to really buy. And this was the first dry, relatively translucent style of Nigori to be introduced in the US. And it really does drink like a expressive, beautifully made sake. And I've heard a lot of people joke that this is sake for Nigori haters. And listen to that, but I think it's definitely a sophisticated Nigori that I wouldn't really recommend the Nigori category as a summertime sake or a refreshing sake, but this one really defies all rules about Nigori. So maybe we can ask Tanaka-san about if the trend of Nigori has changed at all in Japan, or if Japanese people will drink this Nigori, or if it's still kind of associated with more negatively.
今、ドリームクラウズをいただいてますけれども、はい、日本の消費者、濁りに対しての考え、どうなってますか？それと、その次の質問ですけど、はい、この商品自体、今でもよく売れてますかと、評判どうですかと、濁り、一般的な評判と、リハクの濁り、 の評判の話をお願いしたいと思います。
これを言っていいのか知らないですけど、多分日本ではリハクは濁りのメーカーだというイメージはあんまりないのかなというふうに私は思ってます。で、もともとその濁り酒がその日本にあった、濃い濁り酒が主流だった頃なんで、これが発売されたのが。なので濁り酒のイメージ自体を変えることができなかったんだと思うんですよね。で、うちはずっとその香港の輸出なんかからもずっと輸出をスタートした頃から濁り酒の薄いやつをやってて、で、品質保持が簡単だとかそういうのもあって薄い濁り酒っていうのをやって、あとは見た目にインパクトがあるんですごく輸出では昔から評判が良かったので、それで私のお父さんが輸出するときに濁り酒も一種類入れようって思ったんだと。売れる自信はあったのかなというふうには思ってます。
はい。
はい。
いいかな。
いいかわかんない。それはお任せします。はい。
So basically, Rihaku is not a brewery that is known as a nigori producer within Japan. There's some breweries that make a lot of nigori and are well known for the nigori, but Rihaku really isn't one of those. And back then when they started making this product, again, most nigori was very, very thick nigori with a whole lot of sediment in it, which is a completely different style of sake, a completely different way to enjoy that. However, back then, even now, but back then they were exporting, Rihaku was exporting a lot to Hong Kong. And the thinner style actually has a better shelf life. There's less stuff in there to change color. And so a thicker nigori has more stuff that can interact. As such, a thinner nigori is a bit more easier to maintain on the shelf. And Tanaka-san's father decided to thin out the nigori a little bit and send it to Hong Kong because it would last longer on the shelves. And lo and behold, it sold very, very well. And it continued to sell very, very well. And so they continued to make that the way they always make their nigori and open that up to the rest of the world as well. And that's the history behind this particular product.
Thank you. One quick question on Dreamy Clouds. Is the Dreamy Clouds Goihyaku Mangoku grown in Shimane-ken? And he doesn't need that translated, I'm sure.
No,
Shimane-ken ですか？
はい、そうです。
Yes, it is.
でも精米倍は58ですね。
すいません。I messed up. The rice polishing is 58%, which I know very well. I just was a little distracted today. Okay, so in tasting the sake, I find it to be actually quite complex on the nose. I mean, I think there are a little bit of those bubblegum ginjo aromas, but there's a lot of nuts, like not quite, roasted or caramelized nuts, more fresh nuts, dark fruit. I always hesitate in saying this because it seems like such a negative thing to describe a wine with saying that there's any sort of root vegetable, but there's a little bit of a dark beet aroma that I get on this. And it's quite tart and tangy on the finish, like more of a citrus zest. I find that this is an incredibly versatile sake. I've had it with a lot of spicy food with Tanaka-san, and it's been delicious. I've also had it with like bluefish pate, smoked fish dip, a creamy smoked fish dip, fantastic, and borscht, which was a very surprising pairing for me. So just so we can keep this moving, we are going to go to the next slide. The next slide is a silent video, and I'm going to ask Tanaka-san a couple final questions before we get on to Yamada-san. So Tanaka-san, I think you know this, but we have a lot of Canadian sake drinkers in the audience, and I know that you've been to Canada a couple times visiting with Metropolitan Wines and Spirits and participating in Kampai Toronto. Do you have a favorite memory from visiting Canada, or do you have any opinions or surprises about sake in Canada?
カナダ何回もいらっしゃることあると思うんだけど、一番強い思い出とか、あとカナダ産のお酒に関してはご意見ございますかと。
まずすごく一番の思い出は、飛行場について、最初に乗った電車の椅子に財布を忘れていきました。で、はい、それがアメリカでその時の、仕事で最初にカナダに入ったので、初日にもう財布がなくなって、もうこれはダメだと思ってすごいがっかりしてたんですけど、なんと次の日に帰ってきました。カナダ人親切だなと思って感激しました。
はい。まずそこまで言いましょう。
I can take this one, John, because it was very much my problem. So when his favorite memory is not my favorite memory of Canada. It's when he arrived in Toronto and he took the train or the public transit from the airport to his hotel, and he got to his hotel and he called me, and it was quite late, and he told me, oh, I left my wallet on the public transit. Sorry. And he always loses things, and probably because in Japan, it's fine to lose things because they always come back to you. And I live in New York City where that is, if you lose things, they're gone forever. And I'm sure a lot of you watching live in cities where that's the case. And I told him that his wallet was lost forever. And it was the next morning that the lost and found, I called the lost and found. They said, oh, thank you so much for calling. We were so worried about Mr. Tanaka. He must have been so upset losing his wallet. We have it here and we'll come drop it off at the hotel. You know, we're so sorry for the inconvenience. He must have been so stressed out. And Tanaka-san looked at me and he's like, see, Canadian people are really nice. And so he proved me wrong that moment. All right, so I think we can come back to, we're going to do more Q&A at the end, just so we can give each brewer enough time, just in case you've only allowed an hour for this webinar. So we'll say see you later to Tanaka-san until the end of the webinar, and we'll move on to Yamada-san next. And so Yamada-san, he is wearing a happy coat, the light blue happy coat, and you can see his name on the screen here if you're scrolling between the tiles. So Yamada-san is the managing director of Yamada Shoten. It's a very much a family business. His father is the president and his grandfather is the chairman. They're one of the smaller breweries in Japan. You can see all three generations of them here. Apparently they are just getting taller with every generation. And so we have this sake from them called Mukashi no Mama, which I met Yamada-san kind of by chance. There was the Gifu prefectural government was doing a lot of promotional activities in the US along with Hidagyu, this very delicious Wagyu beef from Gifu, and Yamada-san was here pouring on behalf of his family business. And I was just kind of utterly charmed by this brewery, you know, the 900 milliliter bottle, just very rustic. And I've always felt like 720 was just not big enough for two people to really enjoy themselves. And you're so precious when you're pouring people these tiny pours out of a 720. And if you are drinking along with us, I'm sure you can admire the bottle on your own, but it's very cute, you know, this older couple on the label, and just a very rustic look. I felt like it would do very well in Brooklyn. And I tasted the sake, and it was really delicious. And luckily, John felt the same way, and we decided to start working with them. And it's been great. We're very lucky to represent them. So I thought that this would be a good sake for us to talk a little more about regionality, because this sake is very kind of hyper-regional. Gifu is located next to Nagano Prefecture and kind of known as the Alps region of Japan. Gifu would be more of the Central Alps. And this sake is made using a local Gifu certified sake rice called Hirahomare and Alps yeast from Nagano, so kind of in that region. And the product itself, we call it Everlasting Roots in English, but it's a little some liberal translation here. But the hiragana on the label says Mukashi no Mama, which kind of means like the way we always used to do it. And Gifu, Yamada-san told me, is the kind of land of trees. And so this tree trunk represents that, but also the same style of sake brewing passed down from one generation to the next, like rings of a tree. This is a Tokubetsu Junmai sake. So I have a couple of questions for Yamada-san before we taste his sake. So I think Mukashi no Mama is really because you've made very little changes and you didn't update your sake style the way that other breweries did. But I have some people who are curious about your decision to use Alps yeast. When we study sake yeast in the ways that we can study it in English, we learn a lot about the Kyoukai yeast, like yeast number 7, yeast number 9. And I don't think Alps yeast is mentioned as much. So it's generated a lot of interest from people asking questions. So can you talk about your decision to use Alps yeast and how that and maybe the feeling of Mukashi no Mama in general?
昔のままといえば文字通り昔のままの作りだと 思いますけれども、どうしてあえてアルプス酵母を使ったんですか？要するに、それは昔の酵母じゃなくて、境界酵母でもない。それでも昔のまんまという酒に、比較的に最近開発されたアルプス酵母を、使っている理由は何ですかという質問です。
もともと、このお酒ができたのが30年ぐらい前なんですけれども、当初、このお酒は、蔵付き酵母で、まず最初は、スタートしました。
はい、
で、当時、本醸造とか、普通酒とか、そういったアルコール添加をして、さらに、炭をガンガンかけて、ろ過をしたお酒っていうのが、うちの蔵では、主流だったんですけれども、そんな中で、純粋にお米との旨味を、出せるお酒を作ろうっていうことで、30年前、蔵付き酵母でスタートしたのが、この昔のまんまです。はい、そうした中で、やっぱり、最初は蔵付き酵母って安定してないので、県の、技術者と一緒に開発したんですけれども、その中で、やっぱり品質のいいものを出せないかっていうことで、当時、7号とか9号が主流だったんですけれども、アルプス酵母っていう、比較的新しい酵母を、古さの中にちょっと斬新さを持たしたいっていうことで切り替えて、現在に至るっていう感じですね。
はい。So when they first created this sake, Mukashi no Mamba, at that time their company was making a lot of futsushu and honjozo, and they were using a lot of charcoal filtration, and that was what was selling well back then. That's what they were doing. But this particular product was pretty much junmai, so straight rice. You're bringing out the umami or the goodness of the rice itself. And originally, when they started doing it, they used what's called a kuratsuki kobo, or a naturally occurring yeast, an ambient yeast within the brewery. They wanted to do that. However, it wasn't stable. They developed the yeast together with a technician that worked for the prefecture, but it wasn't a stable yeast. So they had to switch yeasts for the sake of stability. And they had the idea that if we're doing everything in the old way, it would be cool to have one new modern touch to the sake. So everything's old except for one little aspect of it. So kind of dosing the old and traditional with a little bit of new. And that was the decision that they used, or that's what they based their decision on, trying the Alps yeast. At that time, yeast number 7, yeast number 9 were very popular. And those are, again, the Brewing Society of Japan yeast that are widely distributed around Japan, around the brewing industry. However, they decided to go with something a little bit more new, or at least comparatively new, and use a yeast that wasn't distributed by the Brewing Society of Japan, and that was the Alps yeast. That's the decision-making process that got them to try that yeast, and they've stuck with it ever since.
Perfect. And I think that really does express itself very well in this sake, because there is a rusticity to the sake, but there's also a lot of elegance, and it changes so much. And John, I know I'm asking you to do a lot of things right now, but if you are going to warm up this sake, maybe it would be a good time. So,
I was wondering when you were going to ask.
So John and I are going to play around a little with temperatures with the next 3 sakes. So we're going to try this Mukashi no Mama, or Everlasting Roots, chilled and in a hot water bath, or however John's heating his. So I think that chilled, it has a lot of, it has a muscat grape note that comes out really very soon. And actually, Miho Fujita is the person who told me this when we tasted it the first time, because I was getting more of like an orange and cocoa, and she kept saying muscat grape, but it really does have this muscat note to me. And it's quite creamy, like kind of a milk or cream note. And there's definitely some baking spice. And I think that the texture is really unusual to this. It's very fine grained. There's a really nice, I would say maybe with the Wandering Poet, the astringency is a little more pronounced. With here, it's very soft, and it has a little bit of minerality on the palate, a little bit of astringency. And I think it's one that changes quite a bit. This was a sake that normally if I taste a sake, I will decide that it is definitely good for warming or definitely a chilled sake. And this is one that really impresses me with both. So I think it's really quite versatile. John, what do you think?
a lot of the things you said, I also agree with. More than smoky and nutty aromas, though, I tend to see raisin bread and butter, but it's underscored by this wonderful tangerine flavor and aroma. The citrus tone underneath is really, really strong, I think. I also see a lot of depth in it, and I see a lot more depth than I usually see in an umami-laden or savory sake. And that's the main appeal of it to me. The combination of the tangerine underscoring the bread and butter, the bread and raisins, but also a lot of depth to it as well. And I'm getting ready to taste it warm, which I'm really looking forward to.
So while you're getting ready to taste it warm, I have a couple other questions. So when I visited this brewery, Yamada Shoten is very small. I believe they make 280 koku. And when I visited this brewery, I was saying, wow, that's so small. And he said, well, actually for Gifu, it's kind of mid-sized, which really shocked me. And I know that there are some breweries in Gifu that make just a few bottles of sake a year. But I guess some other things I noticed about Gifu is that the ceramic culture is really beautiful. And it seems like there is an even stronger shokunin or artisan culture in Gifu compared to other regions of Japan. So I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that.
岐阜県っていうところがやっぱり職人の文化が強い。焼き物であろうが、和紙であろうが、酒造りであろうが、多分味噌もそうかと思うんだけど、その話ちょっとしていただけますか？
はい。おっしゃる通り、岐阜には伝統産業っていうのが多く残ってまして、その美濃和紙とか、あとは陶器、あと刀なんかも作ったりしてます。まあそういった地域ローカル色が非常に強くて、どちらかというと全国の中でも中心部に位置するっていうことで、まあ、交通の便も非常にいいので、あんまり東京に働きに行くとか大阪に働きに行くとかそういったことはなく、みんな地域の中でそれぞれの、仕事に就くっていう方が多いんですね。まあ、そうした中でやっぱり岐阜県って全国の中で7番目の面積を誇るんですけれども、山々に囲まれてて非常に交通の便が悪いっていう中で、その土地土地でいろんな産業っていうのが中心となって、まあ、日本酒もそうなんですけれども、和紙とか陶芸とかそういったものが、今でも根付いてるっていうのが岐阜の職人文化になりますね。
はい。So as we have discussed in the past couple of minutes, there's a lot of traditional industries that are still very live and very strong in Gifu Prefecture. That includes traditional Japanese paper or washi, katana, sword makers are still active there. A lot of ceramic producers or artists are there. And if you look at it, it's actually, in terms of surface area, it's the 7th biggest prefecture in Japan. Japan's got 47 prefectures, and Gifu is the 7th largest in terms of land surface area. However, it's got some plains, but it's completely surrounded by mountains, which means it's not so easy to get in and out of. But a lot of people there, instead of going away to places where it's easy to get around like Osaka or Tokyo, they actually stay at home. They find work at home. And as such, they end up taking over and continuing these traditional industries that we were describing before. And sake brewing is one of those as well. So as for that reason, amongst others, you have a long continuation of a lot of traditional industries within Gifu Prefecture.
Excellent. Have you had a chance to try yours warm, John?
I have, yes.
What are your thoughts on the comparison?
The acidity becomes a lot more prominent, I think. It broadens quite a bit, but I think the acidity and the sweetness both become a lot more prominent at warmer temperatures.
I agree. I think that that really makes me want to pair it more with food, where I feel like the chilled Yamada Shoten is more of an aperitif. I think comparing the two now, there's kind of a floral note in the chilled Yamada Shoten that comes out, a lot more of the grape and citrus, and the baking spice notes come out, and the koji notes, like a little bit of the soy, sweeter soy comes out when it's warm. So I think this is a sake that can take you through an entire meal at an izakaya. I think it would be really great chilled with sashimi and warm with more simmered and fried foods.
Yeah, I don't know what temperature I've hit here, but I just nailed it. It's just really enjoyable, this gently warmer temperature. Everything evolves and melds into something wonderful. And this is something I could drink all night, actually.
Well, I know that the recommended temperature from Yamada-san is 40 degrees Celsius, so kind of a Nurukan temperature. I
might have hit that because I know my body's at 37 because I don't have a fever right now. So it's just about 5 or 6 degrees F above my body, I'm sure. So I think I've nailed that 40 just by luck.
So I have just one last question before the Q&A at the end to ask Yamada-san. So this is from our friends at Metropolitan. So we don't get that much koshu exported to North America, and one brand that we see a lot is Daruma Masamune, and we've seen some other koshus from Gifu in the market. So is there a reason that is that true that Gifu produces a lot of koshu, and is that because of the philosophy on brewing or food, or was there a crisis that resulted in a lot of remaining sake that needed to be aged, or there's just general curiosity about Gifu and koshu?
熟成酒、香酒の話ですけれども、アメリカとカナダというか北米にはあんまり来ないんだけど、よく見えるのは、ダルママスムネでよく見えるんで、それ以外にも岐阜県産の香酒が見えると。要するに、ちょっと他の県よりも岐阜県から出る香酒が多いかというイメージあるんですけど、まずそのイメージは正しいですかと。それ正しければ、その理由は何ありますかという質問です。
そうですね、岐阜県は県内に蔵が40蔵以上あるんですけれども、はい、まあ、本当に古酒も専門で作っているところもあれば、濁り酒を専門で作っているっていうところもあれば、フレッシュな酒しか作らないっていうところもありまして、はい、まあ古酒だけが岐阜っていうイメージではなくてですね、はい、やっぱり地域ごとにそれぞれの、お酒っていうのを地域色が非常に強いかなっていう僕は思います。はい。
His answer was that there's about 40 breweries that are actively making sake in Gifu right now. And there's some that are kosher specialists, and there's some that are nigori specialists, and there are some that are fresh and light specialists. So actually, Gifu does not have an image or is not really well known for a lot of aged sake, but rather instead it's well known for the various brewers in Gifu all have a different style in which they specialize. And there's various types and a wide range of sake that you can find in Gifu. So rather than being an aged sake prefecture, it's a prefecture where you can find a little bit of everything and somebody specializing in that somewhere.
Perfect. All right, well, we will be back to Yamada-san later for additional questions at the end of this. So thank you very much, Yamada-san. I will talk to you in a little bit. I wanted to move on and introduce our third brewer joining us tonight, who is Miss Miho Fujita. I know John has already introduced her. I just wanted to tell her story and the Yuho story very quickly before we jump into tasting and questions. So it is very customary for the president of a brewery like Yamada-san and Tanaka-san to be the next generation of the family that started the brewery. And this brewery is located in Ishikawa Prefecture. If you're looking at the map on this title slide, Ishikawa is on the west coast, and there's a finger, kind of a peninsula finger that sticks out on the mainland of Japan here. And to the right, you can see a star here where Tokyo is. So Fujita-san was actually born and raised in Tokyo, and she did not grow up in a sake-making family at all. She was actually a very, very strong, motivated career woman, single career woman in Tokyo, working for Mattel. She actually was working for Hot Wheels cars. And her father is an Ishikawa native. And right around the time that premium sake was becoming commercially distributed throughout Japan, there there were a lot of small local breweries going out of business because they didn't really have, it was a little bit of a survival of the fittest. They didn't have much of a philosophy. They weren't, all of a sudden you could get really good sake throughout the country. And before then, if you lived in a small town, you were kind of a captive audience to your local brewery. And so her father had heard about this brewery going out of business and decided to purchase it. And his original plans for who in the family was supposed to take over after a certain amount of time didn't really work out. And so he contacted his daughter and told her that she needed to move across the country and run the sake brewery, which I think as you can imagine, is a really daunting proposition to be faced with. But Miho Fujita is a very unapologetically untraditional woman, and she didn't really care that she wasn't from Ishikawa, and she wasn't a sake person, and she didn't feel the need to accommodate all of these demands that anyone else probably would have felt being put in that scenario. And so she moved to Ishikawa, started drinking a lot of sake, found a brewer whose style she really liked, and pretty much made him an offer that he couldn't refuse, to come and work with her, and they could develop their own style, and it didn't have to be the style that was determined generations before them, and they just wanted to have fun. And so if you go to the next slide, when we taste the first sake, the Eternal Embers, it took them a while to come up with the name, their brand name, Yuho, and they had made all this sake, and they were drinking sake at night and eating pork and cheese, which seemed to be their favorite foods. And finally, her brewer was getting exasperated, and he's like, we have all this sake ready to sell. We have to come up with a name. And Jen, can we move to the next slide? You'll see in this region of Ishikawa and Hakui, there's a UFO museum. They're very dedicated to UFOs and aliens, and apparently it's the part of Japan where you can see the most UFOs. And so her brewer was exasperated and said, all right, let's just call it Yuho, which is, we don't really have a strong F sound in Japanese, so Yuho is kind of how you would say UFO. And the characters on the label do say happy rice, but so it's a bit of a double entendre, but really this is a local joke that if you drink enough Yuho, you might see a Yuho. And I think it really speaks to how playful and fun these two are. And they don't make sake to win competitions. They don't really enter them in competitions. They don't really care that much about pleasing a certain palate. And I think that is such an unusual sentiment in Japanese culture that it's become quite popular just in spite of itself, I would say. And the first sake that we're going to taste, and then I will move to some questions for Yuho, but the first sake that we're going to taste is the purple label, the Eternal Embers that you see here on the screen. It's made with, the koji is made with 500 mangoku, and the kakemai, or the steamed non-koji rice, is made with a local table rice, not a sake rice, called Noto Hikari. And the yeast is Kumamoto yeast number 9, and the polishing rate is 55%. So staying with our theme of regionality, the first question that we have for Miho-san is, you use Kumamoto yeast number 9 instead of Kyoukai yeast. Why did you make that choice, and what do you think the difference is?
Can I take 10 seconds and explain the difference really quickly?
Yeah, sure.
So there was a yeast that is now known as yeast number 9. It was discovered by a brewery making a sake called Kodo in Kumamoto. You can still get it directly from the brewery that discovered it, Kodo, if you got a connection. However, Kodo, many years ago, gave it to the Brewing Society of Japan, who very, very, very carefully reproduces it every year and distributes that. So that's known as yeast number 9. And you guys use Kodo からもらってるよね。
でも、ごめんなさい。これ、純米は教会です。コーロから買ってますけど、はい、この純米は、教会なんです。ちょっとコーロも強すぎて、純米には。
でもその話も面白いので、まずコーロ系のやつ、どこに使ってるんですか？
純米吟醸以上はコーロ。
以上。
はい。
で、それ、なんでこだわるんですか？
コーロの方が好きなんですけど、純米にはちょっと発酵力強すぎて。はい。
というわけで、アルテンっていうか、もうちょっと磨いた米でできる酒で、発酵力が強い方がいいんだけど、これには強すぎてと。
強すぎたんで。
わかりました。So, these two yeasts are supposed to be the same, But of course, that's not the way the sake world works. So the source is original, but over the generations, they have changed a little bit. And this one, it says Kumamoto yeast number 9, but actually, she said, it isn't that anymore. For their Junmai Ginjo and above, they use the one directly from Kumamoto Prefecture. And she says it's a very, very strong fermenting yeast. However, when they wanted to make a rich Junmai, they realized once they got started that that fermenting power was a little bit too strong for the type of sake they were trying to make. So for their Junmai Ginjo and above, and I shouldn't say above, but I am, higher grades above that, they use the more strongly fermenting version of yeast number 9 directly from Kumamoto Prefecture. But for this one, this Junmai, they actually use the Kyoukai, the Brewing Society of Japan yeast number 9, because it ferments a little bit more slowly, a little bit more lackadaisically, and that suits the richer Junmai style better.
Yes, sorry, my mistake. And I think she actually has explained this to me in the past, but we've had a lot of fun.
A good story, it's cool.
Okay, perfect. So next question. So this sake is aged in the bottle for a year at room temperature, which is not totally unheard of, but rather unusual for sake since aging in the tank is more efficient. Why do you age in the bottle versus in the tank?
なんで瓶貯蔵こだわるんですか？
それ貯蔵なのか瓶なのかどっちですか？貯蔵っていうところでいいですか？
いや、瓶貯蔵ですよね。
はい、ですけど、
タンクよりも瓶貯蔵にこだわるんですか？
貯蔵させてるっていう部分では、うちのお酒、すごく酸がしっかりしているっていう部分と、旨味もすごく米を溶かして味を出すお酒なので、正直言って出来たては粗すぎて、ちょっと飲みづらい。で、寝かせることによって、その旨味と酸がうまく溶け合って、美味しいお酒に変わるっていう部分と、あと瓶貯蔵っていうのは、1回瓶貯蔵することによって火入れが1回になるという部分で瓶貯蔵にしています。
なるほどね。
はい。
瓶貯蔵の理由はやっぱり火入れ1回だけで済めるっていうわけ。
はい、ただその1回が必ずしもいいというわけではないんですけど、このお酒に関しては、1回がいいという判断で趣旨から。はい、1回にしてます。わかりました。
So she answered 2 questions. One of them, first thing she says, why do we actually mature it as long as we do? And their sake, the rice dissolves quite a bit, and they've got a lot of umami from that. It's got a high acidity too. And they need to lay it down so that the acidity and the umami from the dissolved rice can blend and work well together. So that's why they mature it as long as they do. In terms of why they do a bottle over a tank, if you store sake in a tank, you need to pasteurize it once on the way to the tank, and then once you move it from the tank to the bottle. Unless, of course, you keep everything cold, which is very expensive. So you basically need to pasteurize sake twice if you're going to store it in a tank and then bottle it. However, if you bottle it and store it in bottles, you can get away with pasteurizing it only once, because once it's in the bottle and sealed, it will not see any lactic bacteria that could cause it any harm. So the reason they do it in bottle, they store in bottles, is to avoid having to pasteurize it twice. But she hastened to point out that pasteurizing twice is not bad. It's not necessarily better than pasteurizing only once. But for this particular sake, for them to get it just the way they want you to enjoy it, they've found out that pasteurizing it only once is better for this sake. Not all sake, just for this particular product.
So thank you. And the next question, and I know that it is just 1 minute till the hour. So if you do have to jump off, we will have this recorded, but if you do have time and you want to stick around and geek out with us, we plan on getting a little more technical at this point. So I have another question on, can you describe what characteristics Noto Hikari adds to both Eternal Embers and Rhythm of the Centuries, and why you chose it?
能登光の話ですけども、なんでその米にしたかと、はい、その貢献する味わいとか、その影響、何ですかと。
まずうちのお酒はすごくとにかくしっかり味を出すっていうタイプのお酒なんですけれども、石川県には500万石っていう酒米があるんですが、あまり溶かして味を出すタイプの米ではないんですね。だったらじゃあご飯でおいしく食べれるお米を使ってみたら面白いんじゃないかっていう部分で、まず半米を使おうと判断しました。で、 じゃあ半米でということで、地元で取れる半米をということで、能登光ってまず名前が能登ってつくっていう部分ですごくインパクトがあるっていうことで能登光を選んだっていうことと、あとそもそも能登光の炊いたご飯っていうのがすごく甘みがあって非常に美味しいんですね。なのでその味をうまく純米に活かせるんではないかっていう部分と、あと最近能登光ってちょっと作りにくいので、だんだんこの地域で作られなくなってきてます。で、やはり能登光といういい名前のお米をこれからも残していきたいという思いがありまして、能登光を使っています。
はい。So she's got a lot of reasons for using it. First of all, the style of sake that they make is very, very solid, full flavor. And there's a great rice, the second most widely grown rice, sake rice in Japan, called Gokyakumangoku. Then a lot of it is grown in Ishikawa Prefecture, but it's a lighter flavor profile that doesn't really suit the style of sake that they're making. And to make the style of sake that they want to make, they decided it would actually be better to use a table rice because of the rougher flavors, in her words, that it will give you, the wilder, bigger flavors. It kind of suits the style of sake that they're trying to make. And on top of that, it's a local one. Furthermore, the name Noto Hikari is light of the Noto region. And Noto is the old name for the peninsula, for Ishikawa Prefecture. And so the name was part of it too. The name for the region is in the name of the rice. It's a table rice that gives you big flavors, and it suits their sake quite a bit. Furthermore, less and less of this kind of rice is being grown. It's more and more difficult to grow in the region. So they're actually contributing towards saving the rice by using it so that there's more of an impetus or a reason for farmers to grow it, and therefore they will save it from going into extinction. So that's part of the reason that they use it well. So all these reasons together combined to have them chose Noto Hikari to use in their sake.
Beautiful. All right, let's taste the Eternal Embers. I have this at chilled, room temperature, and warm. So I think, I mean, Miho-san always recommends this sake as being suitable for warming, and I know that we have told her in the past, or I've told her in the past, you know, some parts of America, they're going to think if you say you should warm this sake that it's the kind of hot sake you get in a, you know, run-of-the-mill sushi restaurant in a box. And so maybe it's going to give people a negative connotation. So she understood, and we started saying room temperature, but I drink her sake warm at home, and I think it does change quite a bit. I think in general, this, as Miho-san's been saying, you know, the sake is very high in acid. Both of her sakes are, and this one to me is high in acid in a way that it exhibits itself very differently from the next Yuho that we're going to taste. For me, this has a cidery quality to it, and the acidity, the way that you feel it on the tongue is very different. I think this is a really great like fall sake or Thanksgiving sake to me. Like there's so much of a fig and raisin and baked pear, baking spice, slight green, almost eucalyptus green note, very brioche on the palate. And when you warm it, I think that becomes a lot more soft and round. I don't know what you're experiencing on your end, John.
If I were to use two words for the sake, it would be figs and nuts. And to me, when you warm it up, the nuts take a front seat to the figs, probably aided by the acidity that becomes more prominent. That and everything that you said, I think is really good. Yeah,
all right.
Quite a bit when you warm it up. It spreads out. The breadth just gets really, really enjoyable when you warm it up.
Yeah, it's very expansive or generous.
The older I get, the more I like warm sake, and this is one of the reasons for that right here.
Our owner as well. So we're going to move on next to the Rhythm of the Centuries. Sorry to leave out the Canadians. I did not realize Eternal Embers wasn't there yet. Here's a little picture of Miho-san and her Toji, Yokomichi-san. They are very platonic friends, best friends, and just really, you can tell how much they enjoy each other's company and brewing together. They do brew side by side all throughout the brewing season, and he's a really well-respected Toji. He works he was the Toji at Daimon Shuzo in Osaka. He worked with Philip Harper, who moved on to create Tamagawa or Kinoshita Shuzo, and he's a total genius, and I think the fact that she's given him so much freedom is very unusual in the world of sake brewing, and so it's a really amazing partnership to watch. So we can move on to the next slide as we talk about Rhythm of the Centuries. So it's a little confusing to people because this label says Yama Oroshi, and I think we hear about Kimoto and Yamahai so much when we talk about sake, and so this seems like a weird hybrid. But Yama Oroshi is just a little more of an old school way of talking about Kimoto, where Oroshi is to grate or to crush, and so Yamahai meant you stopped that crushing or grating, and the Rhythm of the Centuries is just a tongue-in-cheek way, kind of speaks to the playfulness that Miho-san and Yokomichi-san have with their philosophy when it comes to their sake. The Kimoto style of sake was developed in the 1600s, and a lot of the time it involved singing this song that would determine, the cadence of the song would determine how many times you would use this pole to ram into the yeast starter to start to naturally dissolve the koji enzymes to produce lactic acid. Miho-san and her brewer often listen to Korean pop music, which is very popular in the brewery. So it's a little more of a frenetic, energetic style of making the Kimoto. And sometimes they even take a drill style to do the crushing instead of using a pole ramming. And this is made with the same specs in terms of rice and yeast. So not Kumamoto yeast number 9, Kyoukai yeast number 9, and 500 mangoku for the koji, Noto Hikari for the kakemae, milled to 55%. This sake is a Kimoto, and it is aged for 4 years in the bottle. So you should notice some evolution in the bottle, both in the color, more of these age notes on the sake. You're going to see some maturity in the sake that you didn't see on the first sake, and perhaps a little more complexity due to the Kimoto. I do have a couple of questions as they relate to this sake before John and I get into tasting it. So, why do you age Rhythm of the Centuries for 4 years when Eternal Embers is only aged for 1 year? Do you think that Kimoto is better for aging than Sokujo?
1年だけで、これ、木本は4年も寝かしてるんですけども、木本の方がやっぱり長く熟成した方がよろしいという思いですか？
ちょっと最初が違うんですけど、もともと熟成で飲めるお酒が蔵に欲しかったんですね。だいたい3年とか4年ぐらい寝かせて飲める酒がそもそも欲しかったので、
欲しかった。
そういう酒を作りたかったんです。
はいはい。
3年4年ぐらいでちょうど飲み時を迎えるようなお酒を1本種類として持っていったんで、そのためにどうしようということで、だったら木本ってすごく熟成することによって良くなるお酒だよねっていうことで、木本のお酒スタイルを採用したんです。
そこまで。So originally she and Yokomichi Toji wanted to create a sake that they could sell after 3 or 4 years. They wanted to have products that were 3 or 4 years old and move in that direction. In other words, of fairly well matured sake. And Yokomichi-san said, well, if that's it, we need to make some Kimoto. So they got going in the whole Kimoto style because they wanted some sake that could be sold after 3 or 4 years of aging. はい、そこで。どうぞ。
あとは、木本をやりたかったっていう。木本
やりたかった。
はい、ヤマハイスタイルのお酒っていうのを石川県でもやってる蔵は多いんですけど、
はい、
木本っていうのをやってる蔵がなかったので、あえて木本作りの酒っていうのをしてみたかったんですね。それで
なんでヤマハより木本こだわったんですか？なんでその方がやりたかったんですか？質問でそうですので、今のうち。
これテクニカル的なんだろう、面白そう。単純に手がかかる方が。
はい、わかりました。Another reason is they wanted to make a Kimoto style. There's a very, very similar style called Yamahai. And the major difference is whether or not you use those poles that those dudes are using to mash up the yeast starter. There's a few more differences related to temperature and temperature control. But Kimoto is the more traditional, longer one. And they wanted to make that. I said, why did you want to make Kimoto and not just Yamahai? She said, we just wanted to do that. It seemed more interesting to us. And that was the reply that she gave me.
すみません。あと、石川県でやってる蔵がなかったっていうので、木本。はい。
やっぱり山多かったよな。Hi. So Ishikawa Prefecture, there's a lot of breweries that make Yamahai styles of sake. but there wasn't any other brewery in Ishikawa Prefecture that was actually making Kimoto. So they decided another reason they decided to make Kimoto rather than Yamahai was for that reason.
So I think we should taste the sake, and then I have several more questions from the group for Fujita-san. So I have it chilled in my glass, and I have it warm. So in a clear glass, you can tell that there's definitely some color that you don't see in the Eternal Embers, which I can see comes from the bottle aging. And just so that if anyone at home is drinking the sake, the 4 years of bottle aging can occasionally result in some sediment developing in the bottle. It's a totally natural reaction of what happens when you bottle age. When you do tank age, there's a lot more opportunity for sedimentation to remove sediments that develop from coagulated proteins and other things. And so this is it's not a flaw. It's something that is, it's totally a result of the way that she makes the sake. And if she were to tank age, I think we would lose a lot of the character of this sake. So if you are seeing any sort of anything floating in your sake, it's totally normal, or it's just how the sake is made. I do think that there's a little bit of a golden color. For me, the maturation on the sake is pretty pronounced in terms of like more of a hay and straw and like corn husk, chamomile instead of more fresh fruit. I think there is definitely fruit, like baked banana and flamed orange, but there is a very roasted quality about almost everything I get on the nose. Some nice floral notes as well. And for me, I think that wine drinkers do gravitate towards what replaces the sensation of tannin in wine, whether it's the stringency that we get on Wandering Poet, or in this case, there's a grip on the palate that's almost like a tea tannin or like a walnut skin kind of grip that sticks around a little longer, that I think is very present chilled, but becomes very round when warmed. I don't know what you think, John.
A lot of the same things you were. To me, when it's at room temperature, I get a lot of pickles, takuan pickles coming out of there. But I see a good amount of soy, but I do also see a lemon, kind of a little citric lemon that I don't think you saw. Herbacity is part of it as well. When I warm it up, the acidity becomes more prominent and a bit of a bitterness comes out, but in a very positive way. So other things are leveled out and evened out, and different aspects of it come out. And one of them to me is a really wonderful, a bit of a bitterness, which usually isn't a flattering word. But again, this is something that can work very well with vegetables and mushrooms and things like that. And I think it's very in tune with everything else that the sake is presenting. So it changes significantly, and some aspects get more prominent and others get a little bit more subdued. But overall, that's what I thought about when I assessed it.
Absolutely. And the other thing that I think is really important to share about Yuho is that I think that most of you, having stayed on this webinar for this long, probably drink enough sake to know that it can stay open longer than most people think. And there's not a hard and fast rule for when it's time to pour a sake down the sink, where with wine, there's that tipping point of no return where you know you have to dump out that bottle of sake. With Yuho, she insists that the last glass in the bottle is always the best. And it doesn't matter if it's been open for 6 months or 8 months or 10 months. And for this reason, I find that I like to, if I'm showing Yuho professionally and taking a bottle around to a lot of stores, I like to pour the whole bottle out and then pour it back in and double decant it in that way and expose it to a lot of oxygen. But also, I've left a bottle of Yuho open for over a year in my apartment, and it's true. It really does become, I think some of the changes with it becoming mellower and rounder from warming it happened from leaving it in the bottle and letting it get a lot of air in it. So this sake is really delicious in a 1.8 liter format for that reason. I think some sakes just taste better in a large format. This is definitely one of them, but she always jokes that, and I think that you actually have a term for this, John, about torturing your sake or just beating it up in the brewery so much that it can't possibly, it's indestructible once it leaves.
Yeah, exactly. If you torture it well enough, it'll survive anything.
So it's one that you don't have to be too delicate with. So I have a couple of questions for Miho-san. We have a question about, since Yuho is so, it has such unconventional roots, is the brand and the sake better received overseas versus in Japan?
ユーホっていう酒っていうか、今、三代屋修造の、あり方、始まり方、結構珍しいという理由で、ということもあって、日本国内と海外でどっちの方が受けやすいですか？どっちの方が評判がいいですか？どっちの方が人気になってますかと。
両方と言いたいですけど、
はい、
広がりが可能性があるのは海外。
そう。はい。So she says she thinks right now they're equally, it's equally well received, but she believes that overseas has a higher potential in the future.
理由も言った方がいいですか？
でもその理由は今あればぜひ教えていただければと思います。
こうなんか熟成とか旨味のある酒っていうのをすごく理解してもらえ、で日本はちょっと今フレッシュフルーティーがすごく流行っていう部分があって、
はい。
ちょっとそういう流れの酒ではないので、まあ、なかなか難しい。ね、あと営業力がアメリカの方がモニカがいるんであります。
わかりました。So the reasons that she thinks the possibilities, the potential for selling overseas is greater than in Japan is that in Japan, most popular sake is very light and fruity. And this is most definitely not light and fruity sake. Whereas overseas, she thinks that there's a lot more potential for people appreciating the maturity, the richness, the umami, and all that comes along with that. Furthermore, she says, we don't have any sales staff. We're a small company, and we don't have the ability to actually do sales where we have Monica in the United States or in North America, as it were. So that she believes that the possibilities overseas are a little bit higher.
Well, thank you very much. I will keep trying on that note. All right, so I have a couple of questions for some of the other brewers, since we're getting towards the end here. So I have a question for Yamada-san. Since the philosophy of the brewery is so much preserving the traditions of the brewery and Gifu being so rooted in tradition, does that prevent you from making different styles of sake that you would like to explore more? And how many different sakes do you make?
まだ商店の、理念っていうか方針としてはやっぱり伝統を守るということで、そういう考え方っていうか、その方針を踏まえてやっぱり新しい酒作りづらいですか？試してみるのは難しいですか？それともう一つ、今何種類ぐらいのお酒作ってますかと。
うちは玉柏っていうメインのお酒がありまして、そちらの方ではいろんな作りをチャレンジしたりはしてるんですけれども、やっぱ根本にあるのは人の手で作るっていう、機械で任せずにやっぱ人の手で、酒造りを行っていくっていう方針はこれからずっと変えずにいきたいですし、僕らも木の古式とか昔ながらの道具を使ってるんですけれども、そういった道具も大切にしながらこの味わいっていうのを守り続けたいなっていう思いはあります。
それを昔のまんまにも玉柏にも同じだということですか？
そうですね、酒造りの根本としては、はい、
はい、それで要するにそれさえ守ることができればいろいろ作れるということで、
はい、
言っていいですか？
そうですね、いろんなチャレンジも行っていきたいなっていう。
その枠の中にね。
はい。
わかりました。So they're very interested in protecting or maintaining traditions and traditional ways of doing things. For example, they do things using as much wooden tools as possible, as many wooden tools as possible. They do everything, they eschew machines, they don't use machines. Everything's done as much as possible by hand. They have another brand name in Japan, probably their main brand name, which is Tamakashiwa, and that's made the same way. So the only limitations that they have are doing things that protect the traditional ways of doing things and the traditional tools, which are also important, maintaining use of traditional tools. And he's very interested in trying all kinds of sake, just limiting it to those boundary conditions. In other words, what can I do by using traditional tools? What can I do while still using the older methods? So as long as he sticks with those, he can maintain the policies of his company and make all kinds of sake within that. So that's the philosophy and the thinking behind what he's doing and what the company is doing.
Perfect. And then this is a question, I'm going to give this to Tanaka-san. How has the domestic sake sales been in Japan since coronavirus? And do you see them bouncing back now that the panic has relaxed a little bit domestically?
お分かりになりますよね。コロナの影響はどのぐらいありましたかと、一応こうしている感じだという人もいるんですので、復活するかどうかと。
まだ、東京が動き始めるんでしょうけど、島根県は今ほとんど7人ぐらいしか、感染者がいないので、島根県に他の県の人が入ってこなければ、毎晩飲みに歩いても平気かなと個人的には思ってるんですけど、これから経済が復活してみんなが歩き回るようになると、気をつけて生活しなきゃって思う人が増えてくると、まだまだ時間はかかるのかなというふうには思いますけどね。
はい、ちょっとそこまでよろしいですか。
はい。
So the whole Corona thing actually started in Tokyo, and in Shimane Prefecture, there's only 7 people that have tested positive or actually had it. So if they take care, things should be safe. But as things open up now, a lot of people are going to start to cross. He said one more thing: is if nobody comes to Shimane from any other prefecture, we're good. However, that's not going to happen. As other people start to move around the country, we still need to be extremely careful. So a more lighthearted way to express what he's feeling is, we're not out of the woods yet. はい、どうぞ。
で、ただうちの会社でいうと、リハクでいうと、3分の1はもう輸出で、3分の1が島根県内で、3分の1は島根県外なので、全部が動き出してくれないと、元には戻らないですよね。
Next, if you look at the distribution of sales from their company, 1/3 is export, 1/3 is within Shimane Prefecture, and 1/3 is within Japan but outside of Shimane Prefecture. So in one sense, it's very evenly distributed, but in another sense, if all of those markets don't rebound, they're going to be in trouble. They will have challenges. はい。
はい。あと何か続きがありましたっけ、質問の。
いや、それはいいけど、ちょっといい話ないですかね。
いい話ね。
っていうか、前向きにやってきますと。
そうですね。いや、モニカさんがすごく頑張ってるんで、それが一番、今、いいところじゃないですか。一番助かってるし、前向きにもし捉えるとすれば、日本でも一升瓶の売り上げが一番落ちてるんですよね。これってもう落ちてる、減ってる。で、これ業務用だと思うので、家で日本酒、家でちょっといい日本酒を飲むっていう習慣が根付いてくれると、これアメリカでも言えることだと思うし、北米でも言えることだと思うし、世界中でお店じゃないところで日本酒を飲むっていう習慣が少し定着すると、今までと違った日本酒の流通ができるかなと思って期待はしてます。
はいはい。So I pressed him for a positive way to end this all. He says, well, we've got Monica taking care of North America, so things should be okay if she's still continues to work hard for us. But another point he said was that 1.8-liter bottle sales have been dropping significantly. And those are pretty much what restaurants will buy. That's kind of an indication of what restaurants are drinking. However, if we look at what's happening, it could mean that a lot more people are drinking slightly better sake than they used to drink and drinking it at home. And that would be an indication that we could see by 720 smaller bottles, smaller packages, increasing their sales as larger packaging, larger bottles decreasing their sales. So there is that potential for a positive turnaround. We just have to wait a bit more to see how that actually pans out.
Okay. One last question for Tanaka-san. So Tanaka-san mentioned earlier that not many farmers grow sake rice anymore in Shimane. If it's ever the case that local kotekimai is no longer available and he needs to import the rice, will this change the character of his product or affect the Shimane style?
お分かりになりましたか？
いや、お願いします。
はい、わかりました。島根県の中に、5、6% しかないんですよね、酒米。すべての米の中に。で、減っちゃっているんだけど、完全になく、酒米の、作りが完全になくなるんだったら、やっぱり他県から調達しなきゃいけないんですよね。だったら、島根県のスタイルというか、リハクの輸出に 影響あると思いますか？
まずはあると思いますが、
はい、
契約してる農家さんの件数を少し増やしたりとか、今まで通りっていうのは難しいかもしれないですけど、できるだけ島根県産をしっかり守っていく努力をしながら、もし他県のものが入ってきたりしても、もともと日本酒の場合はお米の質が変わっても、できるだけ技術で元の味に戻そうってするのが日本酒のテクニックの一つなので、
はい、
全然味変わったよねってならないように、技術的に、持っていくだろうというふうに思ってます。
はい。So certainly will have at least some effect, but there's two things. Number one, he does have the ability to form direct contracts with brewers to grow it for them, for him in Shimane Prefecture. So he would, number one, do his best to make sure that he did not completely lose the supply of sake rice grown in Shimane Prefecture. That's number one. He'd do his best to prevent that from happening. Number two, a cool thing about sake is, yeah, the rice is important, but you can make up for a bad year and likewise make up for a different year within the brewery. So in other words, if he has to bring in rice from another prefecture, he can tweak it, moisture, time, things here and there to make up for the differences between what he would normally have gotten from within Shimane Prefecture and what he brought in from other prefectures. So he would do his best with the brewing skills that he has to make up for the differences and minimize those as well. So by number one, doing his best to prevent the disappearance of Sakamai from Shimane Prefecture. Number two, doing his best to make up for the differences within the brewery, he's pretty confident that he can maintain the quality and style of sake that he's had up until now.
Okay, so we're going to finish with one last question from Tamiko-san from California. And also, 田中さん、私だけのおかげじゃなくて、本当にジェシーとか、問屋さんのネットワークもみんな頑張ってます。
はい、ごめんなさい。おっしゃる通り。
About in order to preserve the, in order to keep using local rice or keep the same style, can you just blend tanks to transition from one brewing year to the next?
抽出を守るためには、BY、今の BY などと次の BY の境目かな。それブレンドすればいいんじゃないですかと。要するに差が分かれないようにブレンドすれば、ちょっと待って、マネカ、that won't make up for the difference, just kind of blend so you don't notice the change, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. ね、境目でブレンドすれば、変わり誰も分からないようにできませんかと。
できると思いますよ。実はリーマンショックの時はちょっとやりました。
あ、そう。
はい。すごくその、お酒の量の調整に困って、最初一番多い時が60本仕込んでたものが3年後に25本しか仕込めなかったって半分以下に下がったことがあったんで、その25本仕込んだやつが、秋ぐらいにもう全然足りなくなって、ちょっと大吟醸の古酒をろ過してワンダリングポエットに混ぜたこともあります。
それ伝えていいですか？
いいですよ。
So it says, yeah, you can do that. You can do that. You can, hide the differences from one year to the next by slowly blending them, so nobody really notices the changes as they take place. And he says one interesting example of this is during what they call the Lehrman shock. So basically, the financial catastrophe back in 2008 and 2009, they were making like 60 tanks a year, and sales started to drop to the point where they only started brewing 25 tanks a year. But calculations are never perfect, and they were just about to run out of sake in the year that they made 25 tanks. So what they did is they took some old daiginjo from several years ago when they had brewed like 60 tanks, they charcoal filtered it, and they blended it in, and they were able to do it in such a way that nobody noticed that there was daiginjo in the regular Junmai ginjo. So you can do that kind of a thing, yes. You can be creative.
Thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and take this opportunity to wrap things up. We're so grateful to all of you for spending this time with us tonight, and just wanted to put a little slide up here on some of our partners around the U.S. who stock sake from these 3 producers. And please, in the chat, I think you know how to reach out to Vivian if you are in Canada, or the lovely Metropolitan team. May is usually the time of year that these brewers all are generous enough with their time to come to the US and tour the country with John and myself and all of our amazing distributor partners, and I get to learn so much from them. So to have the opportunity to have this kind of online discussion seminar with all of you is really amazing for me, and I just want to have a little online kampai. It's not the same, especially since it's 9:30 in the morning where these guys are, but thank you so much for joining us, and we hope to see you soon. Kampai.
Kampai. Thanks everybody.
ありがとうございました。
ありがとうございます。